like you said earlier, internet can be very overloaded with information, but it can also be good for some of the topics that you don't feel comfortable talking to your friends or talking to openly about.
Mhm.
Even in your family, sometimes you don't
Yeah.
feel
Mhm.
right. Self-care, it doesn't matter who you are, man or a woman. Self-care is not selfish. It is important to pay attention to your mind, body, and soul, which is the physical, mental, social, spiritual, whatever you want to call it. We
Mhm.
call that in one word a holistic, leading a holistic lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's what I would tell people who are listening to this.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Your Lab Central. Today I'm joined with Amita Sharma. Amita, do you want to tell our audience why they should be excited about our conversation today?
I'm talking about actually a topic that has stigma attached to it. We
Mhm.
don't want to talk about it at all. And that's what I think people should be excited to listen to this conversation of something that we're going to talk about, that people want to slip it under the rug.
Mhm. So, where should we start? Do you want to run us through the basics and then we can deep dive?
I can start with a basic my story.
Mhm.
I am
Yeah.
a woman. I'm an Indian woman. I grew up in India, and
Mhm.
I'm been working here in Silicon Valley for the last 20 plus years. And when I turned 40, say around that time frame,
Mhm.
I started having these strange symptoms. Strange things happened to me. I couldn't sleep at night, and then the morning I would be defocused, and I couldn't do my work properly,
Mhm.
and I did not know what was happening, so I just kept silent, and I tried to grin it, bear it, and keep doing what I'm supposed to do, go to work, make sure everything is fine. But then I realized that I was going through perimenopause. I honestly did not even know the word perimenopause. I said, I'm
Okay.
too young to go through this, right?
Yeah.
Typically once you think,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to be 50 years old, oh, over there I'm too young, and
Mhm.
suddenly this and perimenopause hit me. And you know what? I didn't realize it's going to last me for like 10 years before you hit menopause.
Right.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
Mhm.
And then if I talk to anyone and
Mhm.
everyone said, oh, no, 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 sure, sure, kind of like, don't
Yeah.
talk about it, right?
Mhm.
So what do you do as a professional woman? I should say that
Mhm.
someone who's working, and more and more women are working nowadays,
Yeah.
and if you and this is a natural biological thing that women go
Yeah.
through, and
True.
and but you can't talk about it, right? And more so in India, which we'll talk about it in a minute. But that is my story,
Mhm.
and I wanted to I actually tried all kind of holistic therapies, and I fixed myself somehow. I
Mhm.
put on a weight, I couldn't sleep, my hair, I mean, this it was a mess, it was a mess. But I
Mhm.
was able to fix myself, with
Right.
energy, everything.
Mhm.
So I thought of giving back to younger
Yeah.
women who are behind me now, who
Mhm.
will go through this journey and who will also feel the way I felt.
Mhm.
And what is a better way to do something for women,
Mhm.
and make a social impact?
Right.
That's what I'm trying to do now.
Okay. Now, when you went out trying to seek guidance about this issue, right? Obviously, in the
Yeah,
corporate arena, people were not
yeah,
willing to talk or something of that sort. But when
yeah,
you try to talk to a medical expert, try to research online, what were the kind
yeah.
of things that you were getting? Was it very helpful, or is there not enough material to be uh,
So
soaked
it
in?
was very confusing, to be honest with you. And if anyone, it doesn't matter you're a guy or a woman, if you're going through some strange things that's happening to you, you
Mm-hmm.
want a credible information. And the medical part, what you just said, I did seek out. But the problem is there's a gap in the medical fraternity,
Mm-hmm.
that they are not taught about perimenopause in their medical school. Can you believe it? On 15 years of their study, perimenopause topic doesn't come, and menopause comes only for 8 hours. It's like me studying. I think I studied more biology in my high school. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the whole focus for a woman's wellness is all on fertility, on giving birth to kids, and that's it,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So it tells you about our society overall in the world,
Mm-hmm.
that we are only focused on the pregnancy and the fertility, and there's nothing wrong with that. I have 2 kids. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the fertility and the pregnancy part, but it's just only that part. Women's life journey is very complicated.
Yeah.
that's what I want to bring it to light, is that now I think people are getting aware of this
Mhm.
issues, these hormonal shifts that happen, and it happens
Mhm.
in men as well. Men also get, as they get mid age, 40 something or around that age group, they
Mhm.
also start getting hormonal shifts.
Mhm. So, how have you started creating this conversation? Because, right, there is no such conversation. So now we have to
Yes.
generate this. We have to urge people to have that, get people
Mhm.
comfortable. So, how are you helping people with that? I mean, there is one about creating awareness, but
Yes.
creating the acceptance, yeah, this also needs to be talked about. How are we getting through to that?
So initially, I started with social media was a great help, to be honest
Mhm.
with you. I started doing a lot of webinars, a lot of
Mhm.
educational sessions on Facebook Live.
Right.
I did over, I don't know, about 3,000 of them, if you believe it or
Oh.
not. And I personally talked to 3,000 or maybe two other thousand women, experts, all kind of people that you can
Mhm.
think of, trying to create awareness, trying to have this topic be discussed openly, normalizing the topic. And it's
Mhm.
not only for the woman, also for the family, for their partners, for their husbands,
Mhm.
because it impacts both,
Yeah.
the family itself. When the woman is suffering, then it cannot be alone. So
Mhm.
there was a lot of work that went into this whole thing in the last few years, a lot of
Right.
research that went into all this, to really, for me, since I am not a medical doctor, or I don't come from the wellness industry, I had to learn. It was almost like going back to school for me, a
Right.
wellness, or so to speak, a school, to understand deeply as
Mhm.
to what the issues are, and what happens, because we are so confused. So it
Mhm.
was a combination of a lot of social media that came to my help, to be honest with you. All the social media, and then getting a lot of my work with a lot of interviews, a lot of experts talking, all that thing
Mhm.
combined. And then we realized after 2 years, 2 years back, we decided we are going to go deep into this topic on women's wellness.
Okay. Now, you've touched upon a very unique part of social media, doing live videos, which nobody that I've talked to has used properly. So, since
Yeah.
you mentioned 3,000 plus Facebook
Yeah.
Live sessions that you've done in the past few days, which basically averages to more than three a day, I don't know. If I take a
I was. Yeah.
yeah, so just want to understand, right? How is Facebook Live different from a regular webinar that you do? Because you have a constant stream of comments, you have people liking, sending hearts, and something of that sort. How do you
So
react
I
to
think,
people there?
yeah, yeah. So I mean, Facebook Live is hit and miss, right? It
Yeah.
depends, because you're doing a live session.
Mm-hmm.
We also tried Insta Live, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing was, I think Insta Live, there were more people who were,
Mm-hmm.
joining. I don't know why. For some reason, maybe people have not using Facebook as much as they used to do before.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be the reason.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it depends on the person is at that time free or not free, or they
Mm-hmm.
have some other thing that is going on that is more fun than listening to at night on some topic that is like, could be a drab, so
Okay.
it wasn't like all the time there were so many people,
Mm-hmm.
but there were, even if there were few people. But Insta Life, for some reason, was very kind of a lot more people. But then it's hard to say if they were all women, or even for men, or they're just joining. But we did not know any other way, to be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
because how do you you know so we did everything from a
Okay.
social point of view, the YouTube, the Facebook, the Insta, LinkedIn. We didn't do live, these kind of
Mm-hmm.
things. But even LinkedIn, even Twitter, we're not very active on Twitter right now. TikTok, we didn't do much.
Mm-hmm.
But we try to go on all the social media to
Mm-hmm.
create, to talk about this topic, to normalize this topic. We also talked about more stigma topics that were stigma. We also talk about sexual health, because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
women we don't talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to talk about as many topics that were kind of hush hush,
Mm-hmm.
through bringing it out through the social media as
Mm-hmm.
possible.
Right. Now, there's a thing about social media. I mean, the more you talk about hush hush topics or kind of
Yeah.
taboo topics, there is a lot of engagement generated because there's either a lot of people who don't get the opportunity to talk about it with regular people in their own
Yeah.
social circle, so they get that opportunity and you get that engagement. Just want to understand. So when you go on Instagram specifically, since you were getting a lot of engagement there, the kind of comments that people were posting, was it more about the questions that they had, or was it about, yeah, I'm also relating to the discussion, and yeah, this discussion is getting very helpful.
So most of the time when we did these thing, people were asking about their personal issues, personal
Mm,
things that maybe their wife is, sometimes even a guy would come in and they said, "Oh, my wife is suffering. I don't know
yeah.
what to do, and she's doesn't know where to go." And so we were very impressed. Men
Mhm.
are kind of coming up and openly
Yeah, that's
trying
right.
to help
Hmm.
someone, right? So
Yeah.
most of the time they were trying to have their own issues, personal issues or personal whatever, and then sometimes it would get a lot medical, which we are not. We're
Mm,
not trying to solve medical problems here,
yeah.
So it was a mixture of both. I think, like you said earlier, internet can be very overloaded with information, but it can also be good for some of the topics that you don't feel comfortable talking to your friends or talking to openly about.
Hmm.
Even in your family sometimes you don't
Yeah.
feel
Hmm.
right. So this is a great way for people to say, okay, I can be anonymous, I can hide behind a computer and I can ask, right, what
Yeah.
kind of questions. It's okay. I personally felt through the same thing. I felt like I can't go and talk about this to anyone, and
Hmm.
I needed to be anonymous when I'm discussing this thing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, at that time,
Hmm.
there was no, it was not fashionable to do IG live and FB live, you
Yeah.
know. I think it became popular in COVID, right around
Yes,
COVID
that's
time.
right. Yes.
Before that, there was barely anyone doing this live
Hmm.
IG and all that. When
Yeah.
the COVID hit, everybody was home and everybody was on live
Social
sessions.
media, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was one point of time in history where everybody was on social media and not outside. So I did help there. But now coming to the corporate arena itself, right, where we are trying to create the conversation.
Yeah.
Uh, so in the office, right, where I don't know how comfortable our women colleagues are when they go and talk about something like this, about their own issues with other male colleagues, but at least in their own circles, how are we initiating this conversation?
It's
How
hard.
can, I mean, in how can it be initiated in a random
Yeah.
office?
It's hard. I'll tell you that. I mean, me, I never initiated any conversation, right? I was just
Mm-hmm.
quiet for the fear of not even talking to my colleagues and
Mm-hmm.
at all, because I just felt it's so super competitive, right? The
Mm-hmm.
workplace, especially the tech, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
and the last thing you want to do is give anyone a reason to show that you're weak from any
Yeah.
point of view, right? So, I mean, that's my feeling. I felt like that, and I never wanted to express my weakness to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard, and I'm sure if I felt like that, most of the women feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it should be initiated, normalize this conversation from the workplace, um, and it is beneficial to employers to for retention and boosting the productivity of their employees, especially women
Right.
employees who are 50% nowadays.
Yeah.
And so they should be initiating these conversations that are for women's wellness
Mm-hmm.
at supporting them at every stage, including the fertility, of course, which is
Mm-hmm.
huge, but also the other stages of a woman's life.
Right.
Because I was looking at the data, especially in India, most of the women who are in their mid 40s, they leave workplace, or maybe earlier than that, they leave workplace,
Mm-hmm.
majority of them.
Okay.
Because even here in United States, 1 out of 10 women, and they end up, they think of leaving because they can't cope up with the symptoms. I personally ended up leaving my full-time job because I could not cope up, and I wanted only 9 to 5 so that I can only work 8 hours and not beyond that,
Mm-hmm.
and taking breaks in between. So I think it impacts the employers a lot because they can lose a good experienced talent.
Right.
By the time a woman is experienced, right, she knows
Yeah.
what I mean, any professional has a decent 15 years of experience behind that
Mm.
person. So
Right.
you're losing a well-trained employee, a resource, for
Mm-hmm.
something that can easily be handled by giving her those employees some resources or some things
Mm-hmm.
that can be managed.
Right. Now, in your experience, what is the best way, or what would be the best way for it to trickle down? Should it come from the employees from bottom up, or is it something that should be initiated top down?
I think it has to come from both sides, right?
Okay.
If the employees don't speak up, if the
Mhm.
women don't speak up that this is a problem, then employers can put all kind of wellness practices in place, and nobody wants to do it. It's no point. We know for a fact that this is a problem. We
Mhm.
know for a fact that this is going to happen to every single woman in the world. That is a
Mhm.
fact. And we also know the data that if
Mhm.
women don't take care of themselves properly during this phase of their life,
Mhm.
the chronic condition when they're older, like 55 or older or 60 or
Yeah.
older, the chances of that go very high, because 80% of the women have one chronic condition in the United States. I don't know the data for India as an
Mhm.
example, but most of the women that I have seen at that age group in India can barely walk. I mean, they have muscle joint pain, they have
Yeah.
problem in walking, they're overweight, majority of them that I have just observed,
Yeah.
and they have all kind of fatigue, all kind of issues, by the
Mhm.
time they reach 55 or 60. and
Mhm.
and you probably have to live until your mid 80s. My god,
Yeah.
can you imagine living 25 years of your life? It's so miserable. It's
Mhm.
that is what, right?
Mhm. So from there, when we have trying to create this conversation, there is a whole circle that needs to be created, right? About where the discussion about wellness, not just uh, health, sexual, emotional, and all those things.
Yeah,
But yeah, the environment has to be such, right? Obviously,
right.
because um, just going and talking about it with a random group of colleagues may not be a random
Yeah,
group of colleagues. They might be your just respective teammates. But then again, the culture as such has to be conducive to the very fact that people are willing to
yeah.
have those personal conversations.
Yeah, yeah. I think women have to rise up. Women have to, realize that this is a problem, and women have to seek help
Mhm.
proactively,
Yeah.
right? Because right now most of the women are moms by that time, right? And they're more focused on getting their kids to college, a proper college, or working for studying for IITs and all the world, and they don't focus on themselves.
Mhm.
They put themselves, their care at the last, and then by the time they're much older, then it's too late sometimes. So I think it has to come from women herself, and also from the family. The family also needs to be made aware that if you have a
Mhm.
mom at home who's at that age, or if you have wife at home or whatever,
Mhm.
that is important for her to take care of herself. It needs to come from a society, that we are normalizing this discussion. You don't want to wait until someone is on a wheelchair, then
Mhm.
now it's too late. Like, it's happened with my mom. Like, she has osteoporosis, and
Mhm.
she had hysterectomy when she was in her early 40s. Nobody even knew what the heck hysterectomy was at that time, and nobody knew the care. So
Mhm.
things like that can be avoided, and the quality of life can go down so much, because now you're living longer, right?
Right.
As a human race, we are living longer.
Mhm.
That is the problem. Now we are not living, the quality of life goes down.
Mhm. Now, from your personal experience, okay,
Yeah,
to the women out there, or to the your colleagues out there,
yeah.
what would be one tip that you would give them as to how they can take care of themselves during this period? Or next we'll talk about initiating the conversation, but first how to take care about themselves.
Sure. So I think self-care, I would say to women and men and whoever is listening, self-care, it doesn't matter who you are, man or a woman, self-care is not selfish. It is important to pay attention to your mind, body, and soul, which is the physical, mental, social, spiritual, whatever you want to call it. We
Mhm.
call that in one word a holistic, leading a holistic lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's what I would tell people who are listening to this.
And one tip to initiate this conversation in their own circle.
Mhm. Well, I think following a daily routine is important, right? For a
Okay.
lot of things. Now, initiating this conversation is a bit tricky, right? You
Right.
can't go in a social circle and talk to women and say, "Oh, by the way, are you going through perimenopause?" Right?
Right.
It's kind of awkward. So it's more like, I think, at the family level, at the grassroots level, that it could initiate. Like, let's say if you have a mom
Mm-hmm.
and she's in her mid 40s or 50s or somewhere out there,
Mm-hmm.
that could be a discussion that can be had if she's going through, just a checklist of if
Yeah.
she's taking care of that, right? I think it's probably has to start at a family level first, rather than going outside in a social gathering. Might not Women might not appreciate, I don't know, everybody's different.
Mm-hmm.
They
Right.
might want to keep it to themselves. So I think these kind of discussions are better at a family level, or even at the workplace level, where the employers are actually progressive. They're progressive about this whole discussion, and they're saying, hey, now we support women through all stages of their life,
Mm-hmm.
their work life, not
Mm-hmm.
the entire life, the work life when they
Yeah.
are there. And a lot of women, at least in United States, are working beyond in their 50s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we know what they're going through. It's not a big secret. And even in India, more women over 40 are at workplace now
Yeah.
than ever before,
Yeah. That's
before
true.
women would end up. So I think having a simple conversation, simple awareness as a starting point. What
Yeah.
would you go through if you are 40 years old? Just learn about it. And even the stats for Indian women are actually more alarming. I'll tell you why. Because Indian women, especially in India, are facing menopause at age 45, 46,
Okay.
6, 7 years younger than a
Right.
normal age of 51, 52. And that is actually very alarming, because they're depleting their hormones 6, 7 years earlier they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So this
Now,
topic is can be very, very crucial to bring it out.
right. Now, there are a lot of things that could add to the problem or reduce that problem itself, say stress,
Yes.
physical or mental.
Mhm.
Anything to manage that? How have you? Because in the corporate arena, there's only so much stress that you can say, yeah, yeah, there's no limit to the stress that you can be getting, and there's a limit to how much you can take.
Exactly. We are all living in a very stressed environment,
Mhm.
stressed out lives, what is going on in the world, and especially, in a country like India, there is a society pressure also, that sometimes you can't do things. There's a subservient culture sometimes,
Mhm.
few places for women. So I think everybody should do their me time every single day to get the stress out. Whether it's a talk therapy, you talk to someone, what we call cognitive behavioral therapy, or you do some meditation, or you do some breath work, or you do some essential oils or hypnotherapy, whatever works for you. It's very, very important to not be stressed, because stress can actually literally can create a lot of havoc in your hormonal health, whether it's a men or women, it doesn't matter. So
Mhm.
stress is bad for us. Stress is
Yeah.
really bad for us. And unfortunately, we are all swimming in stress, depending on where it doesn't matter where you are in the world nowadays,
Right.
right? It's very hard. So it's not easy, but how you are able to cope up with stress, I think that's a trick that
Mhm.
all of us have to learn. I had to learn, because I would worry about so many different things.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things that you can think is that things that you cannot control, which is out of your control, you can't worry about them. What can you do?
True.
The universe is going to find its meaning one way or another. It's going to
Yeah.
do what it's going to do. I
Mhm.
think we as human beings worry so much about the future, what's going to happen. Oh my God, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Somehow we need to think of the present, what the
Yeah.
yogis talk about, and see whatever the present is. If I can do the best in today, okay, let me go one step at a time, one moment at a time, 1 minute at a time. That kind of an attitude. If we can do that, and just make sure we stay grounded, that could
Mhm.
be. I know it's very hard for me as well.
Yeah, I've been trying to do that for quite some time, just trying to stay in the present. But yeah, when you're working
Yeah.
in an office, there is always something that you have to look forward to, and sometimes you just tend to start living in that future tense
Yes.
itself, but that becomes a
Yes.
problem again.
It's hard. It's hard. Yeah.
Now, how have you been helping people? Now, you mentioned webinar and Facebook, but how are you
Yeah.
spreading the word out? Are you writing a book? Are you doing some uh, conferences or something of that sort?
No, we are actually coming out with the app in a month or so.
Yeah.
So we thought a lot about, I don't feel qualified to write a book. I'm not
Mhm.
a medical professional,
Right.
but what we thought about is that how do we bring something like this to the masses, to
Mhm.
women out there, and make it affordable? So we are going to come up with an app. That's going to be a subscription based, which would be affordable, and go from there.
Right. So okay, that will be a business conversation. I don't know if you're
Yes.
ready for that, but yeah, apps are definitely exciting, and people get along on apps a lot. Now, so before I close, where can people get in touch with you if you want to share your details?
Yeah, so people can go to www.nourishtalk.com, and that's the best place where we will be posting all the links for everything moving forward.
Uh, can you just tell me? I just the name itself gives me a little flavor about the nourishment talks, something that you do. What happens on that website?
So the you mean in the website has a lot of information. Like I said, we've done so many talks, almost 3,000 of them in the last 3 years, 4 years or so.
Okay.
And there's a lot of information, but it's information overload, in my
Right.
opinion. People might get confused, but there's a lot of information. So what we are doing is making that information accessible and
Mhm.
digestible, right?
Right.
Presented in a way that people can understand what to do, what not to do. Because otherwise, it's like I can go all day on YouTube and look at 10,000 videos, but I'll get more confused sometimes.
Right.
So, what
Yeah.
we are trying to do is how do you present this information in a structured way so that
Mhm.
people can grasp that? And that's what we are trying to do.
Thank you so much, Amita. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Your Lab Central. To the audience, if you have some doubts or if you relate to the problem that we discussed about, do leave a comment and we'll get back to you. And if there's something that you want to add to, do also leave a comment. If you liked it, if you liked the conversation, do leave a like and don't forget to subscribe before you close the window itself. Thank you, Amita. Thank you for joining in, and thanks to the audience for listening and watching. Thank you. Thank you.